Everyone, welcome to the Nate Cox Music Channel. I'm a worship leader here in Minneapolis, Minnesota at a church called the Redemption Church, and this channel is going to be used for resources for worship leaders. One of the things that I love and I feel like the Lord has put on my heart is to raise up worship leaders and to help equip the next generation of worship leaders. Myself being one of them, I'm learning along with everybody, but I have this passion to see worship leaders equipped to lead their churches effectively on a Sunday morning in a way that is God-honoring, gospel-centered, and compelling. So part of that will be, I'll have a lot of resources and videos that will come out like this that are super practical. I have the idea of doing what I'm going to call a Tracks Tuesday, where every Tuesday when I am building out the tracks myself for our Sunday morning gathering, just taking you guys along with me, talking through what we're doing as a way for you guys to see how I set things up through Ableton and TracksWise. But also I want to be able to provide content that builds up the worship leader, that helps people develop a philosophy of worship and why it matters to lead people well in your church on a Sunday morning context, or if you're like us that have a college ministry or a high school ministry or whatever context you're leading worship in, we want to equip you to effectively lead in a compelling way that is centered on the truth of the gospel, that Jesus' life, death, and resurrection is the thing that affords us life and the thing that we should sing about, the thing that we should center our lives around. So with that being said, let's jump into the first kind of Tracks Tuesday. It's a Wednesday here, so give me some grace. But I want to start by just showing you guys, let me get myself a little bit smaller here. I want to show you guys the set that we have planned for this weekend. So we are in a second week of a series called Suffering and Glory through the book of 2 Corinthians. And it's a fun weekend because you can see here it's Salt Company Conference weekend. What the Salt Company is for us, that is our college ministry. We are one of many Salt Companies around the country. And if you are a college student and looking to get involved in community, this is a great place to get plugged in. There is sweet community, intentional discipleship that is done through Salt Company. And if you're curious and want to get a part of it, you should check it out if there's one around you. But a lot of our churches in our network are planted around university cities. So Salt Company could be around where you are if you're a college student. That was a side note. But as I was saying, it's a fun weekend because the Salt Company Conference weekend means that there's just going to be a lot of new students in the building this Sunday morning, excuse me. So here's our set, given that is true. We're going from Who Else? We do a time of meet and greet in between the first and second song just to give a new person a chance to meet a new face, to have a name to take from their time at Redemption, even if it's just for a minute and 15 seconds like it is here, just something to bring some life into the room and give the new person especially an opportunity to meet somebody so they don't feel like they are in and out without ever saying hello to anyone, without anyone knowing their name. It's a small thing, but something that we value here at Redemption. And then we'll go into the second song, which is going to be Bless God this Sunday. Out of Bless God, whoever leads that song generally prays. So Curtis, who is one of our vocalists, he'll pray. And then it's another fun thing about the conference weekend is that we have an outside pastor from our network or Salt Company director will come in and teach for the weekend for their Salt Company Conference, which is kind of like a fall retreat. You can think of it that way. And this year it's Mark Arendt, who actually has a sweet relationship with our church because he is the lead pastor at one of the churches that planted our church about 8 years ago. So it's a pretty fun weekend that we get to have our friend Mark around. But he'll preach on this passage in 2 Corinthians. We're in chapter 1, verse 12 through 2:11. And out of that, usually our pastors pray, and our band kind of loads during that prayer. But we're going into underdressed, and you can see here I have a Nothing But the Blood tag, which I'm excited to show you guys that because it is a really interesting way of doing it, because it goes from 6/8 to 4/4, if you know those songs. Anyway, that being said, this is our set. This is what we're working with this Sunday. Let me show you how how I'll build my tracks out. So let's jump into Ableton. This is what I use. I use Ableton. I know that a lot of people love playback, but if you are a worship leader that uses Ableton and prefers working out of a DAW this way, a digital audio workspace, then hopefully this is extra helpful for you. I build my sets out in arrangement view. There's a lot of discussion around arrangement versus session view. I use arrangement view because it helps us to, I think it helps me as a worship leader be more familiar with the song that we're playing on a given weekend. I could build out a session view set and have all my songs kind of in this session view where they're all labeled here, they're all in one spot. But I like keeping all my song sessions separately on a hard drive and building out each session and each service as is needed. It helps me feel like I have a better control over the transitional moments of the song, or of the service, excuse me. And it helps me familiarize myself. And kind of a tertiary benefit of it is that we use this Ableton session, we screen record, and we'll use this for practice, or like a set details video essentially. So we'll walk our bands through a set, show things, and having the tracks fully available in arrangement view is a really helpful way for us to walk our band through what we're going to be hitting musically for the weekend. So with that being said, one other thing that I would recommend to you, if you're using Ableton, build out a simple template. Templates are your friend. Right now I can walk you through my template. We have, in terms of channels, loop, markers, click, guide, pad. So we run, I run a loop feature using an IAC driver, and if there's interest in knowing how that works, I can make another video about that, showing you guys how to set up an IAC driver to be used for loop cues. But you can essentially think of it like you have an internal MIDI signal that is being triggered that will send, I use it to loop back to the previous locator. The reason I use loops is just kind of like an SOS, like, okay, we're kind of off, we're off the tracks. I don't want this to be distracting in the room, that we're not on the click, or we're not on in terms of where the tracks are at. And this helps me kind of have a fail safe where if, say, we like wait 2 measures extra to come in, or something crazy happens, you never know what's going to happen on a Sunday. But if something crazy were to happen, this just allows us to stay in the same tempo and the same key until I take us out of kind of like the back, or like fail safe mode, if you will, and can get us kind of transitioning into the next song or wherever we need to be. So it's just a helpful fallback for me to have. It helps give me confidence that even if we get off the click, or if we're on the click and we're just off the tracks, I can ditch those and we'll be all right. So that's what I use my loop feature for. I'll show you a little bit more of that as we kind of get the set finalized. I have a MIDI channel that's labeled markers. So we make song sessions for every song that we do, and in that song session, we'll throw a blank MIDI track in there and a blank MIDI file, the length of the song, and we'll splice it up to show the roadmap of the song, basically. So it allows us to be really flexible in rehearsal, especially like if we're wanting to jump in at a certain point in the song. It's a really easy and helpful way for us to find where we're at and where we need to be and to jump in. So I'm realizing that you might not be able to see. Let me go over here. This is my loop. You can see it right here, right there. But let me drag myself back. So I'll try to be aware of the fact that I'm kind of covering up this. Maybe I'll move myself down here for right now, and we'll see how that feels. I might not like that. I might move us back. But as I'm showing off the template here, yeah, I'll have loop, I'll have those markers, the kind of the arrangement of the song. Click and guide, we run out of the same channel. Part of the reason why is to keep it consistent. You could go through and have multiple clicks and guides and assign them to the same channel on the outputs, but I'm not going to do that because part of the way that I set things up is I use the Roy G Biv system. It's super basic. It's just like as I move from song to song to song, my first song is red. I'm like color coding my click and guide and markers tracks to be red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and so on. So That's a helpful system that I will use. But yeah, click guide and then a pad. And the reason why, one of the reasons why I love this template is that it's kind of the monotonous things, the mundane things of like, I have to make sure that I drop the pad by 20 dB because I know when I'm listening to this outside of the context of a mix in the room, the pad is going to be blisteringly hot compared to the rest of my tracks. So this is kind of our template. I guess last thing is I use locators to mark different points of our service as I'm building things out in arrangement view. And this template has a key command, so you can go Command K, and everything that is in orange can be mapped to a key on your keyboard. The same thing if you go Command M. If you have a MIDI foot switch where you want to assign things in a service, this is a great place to do that. Everything in purple can be assigned to a foot switch. I'll use this. I have a loop to miss pedal that I'll use on a Sunday morning. It helps me control things at my feet. I can throw it in my fail-safe modes. I can move through the service as I want, and I'll map things out from here onto that MIDI controller. You can also use, if you don't remember, Command M or Command K, key up here, and MIDI will do the same thing. I'm gonna make myself a little smaller and move myself up here. Hopefully that's all right. But I shouldn't need anything up there at this point. So now let's jump into building the set. So how I'll do things is as we introduce new songs or new arrangements of songs, I will build out a song session one time, and then I'll drag those song sessions into our Ableton session. So we know that the first song here is Who Else. So if you go Command R, that goes to rename. You can also left click, but we're doing Who Else. I know it's in the key of G. This is just helpful for me, just in case I need a quick reference. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, your brain doesn't want to work as well as maybe you'd hope. So I'm going to give myself as much information as I can. All right. So Who Else is in G? I already have this song session built out. So I'll in my song sessions folder here, it's all alphabetical. I'm looking for Who Else in G. So we have an extended arrangement that we've built out. We have the tracks from Gateway, and Who Else. The Who Else version that I really love is the Passion version. So I built out a song session that is more in line with the arrangement of that. So I'll grab my markers, click and guide here to start with, and I'll throw that in, and wherever this line is, it'll drop the tracks right in there. So it's going to split my guide and my pad here. And then I'm going to select all them, and then I'll cut and paste them into my given markers, click and guide channel. And then while you paste it, it'll be all highlighted, so I'll just turn them red. It's the first color in my Roy G. Biv system, and to make sure that I'm feeling confident about what song we're on. Especially when you're standing up and your computer is on the floor, like it is the case with our setup. It's just helpful. It's just helpful to have this color coded, so you never know if a button gets bumped or something like that. It could jump you to a whole nother song, and you don't want that. You just want to be confident where you're at. So I'll do the red for my first one, and then below the pad is where I'll drag in the rest of my track. So I'm gonna have click guide and the markers always living up top here for every song. So I'll select all of these tracks here, and I'll drag them below. And then as these are dropped in here, I like to group my tracks. It makes things look nicer, but it also gives you good control. So Command G, you could also right click, group tracks, and then I'm going to name this. I'm going to make this group red to match my red markers, click and guide, and then I'm going to name this Who Else in G. So that's easy enough right there. So out of meet and greet here, or out of this first song, Who Else, we go into meet and greet. Put my ears in here. We go into meet and greet, which we generally will jam over. We'll have like a little kind of rhythm section. We'll jam over that as people are introducing themselves. So I'm going to jump into the back half of this last chorus. Oh, excuse me. I totally forgot something. The reason why these markers aren't lining up correctly is because I'm in the wrong key. When I'm naming, or the wrong tempo, excuse me. When I'm naming things, I'll throw the tempo into the name. So it's just a helpful way for me to have a good reference. But I'm going to change that from 120 to 68. And now the markers will line up. Because these MIDI markers are attached to the time grid, not the wave files that are in the same file. That's just how MIDI works. So I'll jump to the second half of this chorus, and then what we'll do is we'll add a guide count in going into meet and greet. So I'll kind of feel out the time that I want that to go in, and we'll go from there. So down chorus here. There is no one, only Jesus.
Ending.
Then we land on the 1 there. So I think we want our count in to start right here. So I'm going to split these tracks. So right where the ending is, we'll split that, and then it's a 2 measure count in that I'll generally give. So 2 measures after where I want the count in to start is where I'm going to throw my locator. The reason I do this is because I'll throw a loop cue at the end of it, and the loop cue will go back to the previous locator, and I don't want necessarily that click and guide to be included if it has to loop back. There shouldn't be any reason that we do have to loop back, because the time of our meet and greet is 1 minute and 15 seconds. I'll just duplicate. I'll duplicate the click from the first song. Command D will duplicate things, or again you can right click on things to duplicate. Command D. But learn your keyboard commands. They're really helpful. But I'll drag this, or I'll add a guide cue with a 2 measure count in to meet and greet, and then this will be, I'll add the locator here. I just do M and G for meet and greet time, and then I'm going to throw my guide in. So I have Multitracks. You can download their official click and guide package. It can be a really helpful way to keep things consistent from what people are hearing in their ears as you're leading on a Sunday. So I'll do I don't need the click, I need the guide, Multitracks guide. Song section, so I'll just do a count in the same way that there would be a count in at the beginning of the song. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I could just copy and paste this as well from the beginning of the song. That's totally an option as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now when this song ends, it'll go like this.
Ending.
We'll land on the 1 here.
1, 2,
Our
1,
worship leader is going to be
2,
welcoming people here.
3, 4.
And then we're in right there at the top of the meet and greet. So now this is the time when, after we build up this first song, transition to the meet and greet, I generally will throw my pad in at this point. Why? I don't know why. Why right now is the time I'll do that. But we're in the key of G for the first song. So I have a pack of pads that I found online. There's lots of free pads out there, free pad packages. This is one I like, the Reawaken Worship stuff. Shout out to them. We've used them for a while. But yeah, this is the pack that I'll use. I think they're about 15 minutes long or something like that? Oh yeah, you can see right here, a little over 15 minutes long for the key of G. They might vary by key, but it gives us plenty of time, and then you can cut it down as you need. So out of meet and greet here, meet and greet click ends about here, so I'll give it a little bit of a tail over that. If you command E, you can split a track. Again, you can also right click and split, which you can't do now because I already did it. And then I'll do a little bit of a fade. So this is just creating a redundancy where it's if something happens for whatever reason, tracks get left running, and the loop doesn't keep it going, I want it to naturally fade out. So redundancy and attention to detail is really important there. So that's our first song. And then the next thing that we need tracks wise in the set is the second song after meet and greet. So I'll add a locator, I'll give it some space. So again, just in case my for whatever reason, my click and guide and whatever get left running, I want to create some space so that's not going immediately into the next song. So we know that our second song here is Bless God, and that's in the key of A. So right here, I'll have a post meet and greet. I'll put just a pad in. This just gives us a little bit of flexibility. If our worship leader for the week, which this weekend is our worship pastor Isaac, if he wants to kind of shepherd people back into the next song, this creates an easy way to do that. So I'm going to throw a pad in the key of A right there, and then I'll kind of split the pad. I'll give it plenty of time, and then I'll throw a locator for a second song, which is Bless God. That's in A. And again, Command K, I'm going to go and I'm going to assign that to number 2 because that's our second song of the morning. And then I have a song session in here. We're doing a little bit of a shortened arrangement of this song, which is way up here. Bless God. So this is RTC, Redemption Twin Cities. Shortened arrangement is the one that we're going to do. So grab your markers, click and guide, and it'll drop it below. You got to go back to the first song because it'll always drop it at the very beginning of your session. Make sure all of those are selected, and then we'll cut and paste that out over. Go ahead and hit number 2. There. So one thing that we do need to do that I haven't done yet is we need to change the tempo of the session. So if you pull up this main, if you're on an older version of Ableton, it might say master. We'll pull up this main tab, and then you hit A, or you can hit this little guy here. That'll open up automation, and just make sure that it's mixer and song tempo. That'll show you where it is. So I'm going to drop one here. I'm going to add a value, and then I'm going to look. Bless God is at 72.5, and then so you can add that value, change that there, and then you want to make sure that it's on the same line as where you're making the change, just so that your measure markers and points don't get all goofed up. So we can get out of the automation mode, and then we can throw the rest of the tracks in for Bless God. We don't need... Actually, I'm going to... We have a couple songs that the MP3 is included. So I'm just going to... Oops. Going to redo that. Drop that track. I'm going to copy and paste this in right here, just as a helpful reference, because we've changed the arrangement of these songs. I'm just going to add those in so that when we're talking to our band, then we can, when we're talking to our band, we can reference the MP3. Okay, there we go. We'll delete that one. And we're just going to rename this MP3. So this won't be routed in anywhere. This is just purely for when we're walking through the band with the band to explain where we're going for the morning. We have that to reference. Not every time that we build this song session do we have that available, or like that we have that saved in the song session. But in this case, we do. So we'll use it. And then we're looking at here. We're going to throw the rest of our tracks in below. Who else? Got to make sure they're all selected. I don't know what this is, but we'll yeah, and then we're gonna go hit number 2, paste them in, and here they are. And another reason here, you can see why I'm going to group all these tracks, and the reason why I do that is because it can get really visually messy if you just leave them the way they are. So we were at Bless God in A. I'm going to make that orange, as well as I'm going to change the color of my guide, click, and markers to orange. So you can see the difference now. So say I'm in a session or whatever, or a service, and I got to go through all of these tracks. I'm flying from top to bottom. This is only 2 songs. This is 2 of like 3.5 that we're doing for this Sunday. And just grouping things allows you to collapse them in a way that is still beneficial. You can route the whole group to something unless it's specified otherwise. So it doesn't change any of your ability to assign outputs or to patch things in to your system, but it's just a helpful way, especially visually, when you don't need to see all of the individual tracks. You just need them to be there. It's a helpful way to visually do that. So that is Bless God. What I'll do is with Bless God, it'll end, and I'll leave a tail of a good bit of pad on there, because a lot of times during that prayer, we'll instruct our keys player or our electric player, or both, to kind of do some more swelly and vamp type keys behind that prayer before the message. So here's that second half here.
Tag. Breakdown.
That's what happened. So sometimes when you paste this in, this is why I always check the beginning and ends of things. It'll cut the track short, so you just want to drag all these back out, just like this.
Tag. Breakdown. Ending.
Kind of swell out there, and at this point, whoever is leading that song, which is Curtis in this case, is going to be praying, and then our keys player will kind of play in the background. Our EG will kind of swell, and then we'll wrap up, and then we'll throw that to the pastor for our message. So the next thing in the service, if we look here, is we have a prayer out of Mark's message. He'll pray at the end. So I try to put in a pad, because that's the point when the band will load, and I want there to be a pad available as soon as possible. So I'll throw a post-message pad there. That's how I label that. And let me just move over a little bit. So post-message, I'm going to assign this to P, because this is a more of a critical marker that I typically use when I'm assigning things to my MIDI controller as well. The next song is Underdressed in A. So we can just copy. We'll duplicate this and drag it to the locator. We're in A here. So our next song, we'll throw in Underdressed here. So add a locator in A. And then kind of copy paste the same process, right? We're gonna look for Underdressed. I've made an arrangement of Nothing But the Blood, with a Nothing But the Blood tag. Where are you? I know my alphabet. Don't worry about it. Okay. So we're gonna go here. I copy paste this whole process. P. Underdressed, we need to assign the locator to number 3, because it's the third song. We also need to change the tempo before we paste this in, which is at 69. So we'll add a value here, change it to 69. We also in Ableton need to make sure the time signature is correct. So at this post message point, I'm going to make a time signature change, and this is going to go to 6/8 from 4/4 there. And now we can throw our underdressed markers clicking guide in their position. I'm going to make this yellow because it's my third song, Roy G-Viv, red, orange, yellow. Helpful way for me to understand where I'm at. And then I'll throw the rest of our stuff in here. Command X, number 3, Command V to paste. And then just want to make sure that we might have the wrong version here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, sir, we do. Okay, totally fine. Wrong version. What happened? What looks like what happened is that I made a copy and didn't actually do anything with the copy. So we'll do the same thing here. If you see sequence, it's just because I have in the past called it, instead of markers, called it a sequence track, but we've kind of standardized to using markers. So we'll select all this. Yeah, you can see here the Nothing But the Blood verse here. So we'll cut that. We'll copy it in right here. Again, we're changing it to yellow, third song of the set. And then we're dragging in the rest of our tune as well. Let's go back here. Select all of our tracks and then paste them in the correct spot. We'll throw them in a group. This is Underdressed in A. And then obviously Nothing But the Blood tag will happen as well. We're going to make it yellow to match our click guide and tracks. And then one thing we need to do, because Nothing But the Blood is in 4/4 and Underdressed is in 6/8, we've had a transition that we've kind of come up with. That works, I think, pretty well. But being that it changes our time signature, we need to change that in Ableton here. So you can see at the end of the song, we're at the last bridge of Underdressed here, second half of it.
Hits. One.
So right here on this one count,
Two.
so we're going to change to 4/4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So right on this one count, we're going to throw a locator. We're going to do, Nothing But the Blood. Just a helpful way to know where that's at. And then we will insert a time signature change right here. So this will make the one count of that measure be right here. I'm going to grab a guitar to kind of talk through this transition. All right, we're back. We're back, everybody. So let me talk through this transition. This is just a fun thing I want to share with you guys, but because we're moving from 6/8 to 4/4, I think this is a sweet way that we're doing this, but it matters in the tracks too that we change these things. So here's the back half of that, and I'll talk through kind of this this transition that we're going to do. Here.
Hits. 1, 2.
Hits.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And wash away my sin. So that's how we're getting into it. It's really fun. But being that we're transitioning from 6/8 to 4/4, we got to throw that in the track so that our measure markers line up, and it's still helpful for our band. So that's how we set up the overall tracks for our songs. Let me set this guitar down. Yeah, so that's overall how we'll set up our tracks for our songs. Now, there's a couple things that we need to do, kind of like little things, like we got to set up the loop feature. So what I'm going to do here, we need to set up kind of our fail safes. Because we have pads everywhere, what I need to duplicate this, because the way that I'll assign things, it'll make sense. I'll show you. So I'm going to duplicate my pad. I'm going to set up these loops, and then I'll duplicate those. So this loop here, I have one MIDI cue. I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to paste it right at the end of the song where the click is still in time. So right there, I'm going to change this 1 bar to none. Just that, what that does is, as soon as it hits this MIDI cue or this MIDI note, it will do whatever it's assigned to do. So because I'm going to assign this to the IAC driver like it should be, and then it should be assigned here to this previous locator. So how this works is that if I'm in that failsafe mode, which I'll show you how I set that up. If I'm in that failsafe mode, this loop cue is activated, and if I'm trying to keep us in this key, in this time, in this song, it'll hit this and it'll jump back to the previous locator.
1.
Just like that. So the way that I set this up is that like I only have these active if I've already ditched all the tracks and guide, and I'm either just on a click and a pad or I'm just on a pad. So if we're in time and things are, if we're in time as a band, I'll keep the click in. If we're just off from where we were supposed to jump in, I'll keep the click in and solo that out. But if we're way off, if we're off tempo, if we're off everything, we just need to ditch to a pad and just rely on musical feel. I have it for that as well. So I'm going to copy this MIDI note everywhere that I think I might need it. So that's at the end of meet and greet as well. It is at the end of my second song, near the end of my second song. It is, I don't need it in post message, but I need it at the end here. And I can do it at the end of this, even though with the time signature change, because the tempo doesn't change and it's still an 8th note click. So there's no change to how the click will sound in people's ears. So what I'll do now, I'll duplicate this track, Command D, duplicate the track, and then I'm going to inactivate both of them. And how I set this up is, imagine you can map things the same way on a MIDI foot switch, but I'll do it with my keys, my key assignments. So Command K. What I'm going to do is, if I'm going to map this to the letter C for click. If we get off but we're still in time, I'm going to have C be my failsafe button. I also have another button that's just labeled click down on my MIDI controller. So C, I'm going to solo one of these loop features. I'm going to solo the click itself, and I'm going to solo one of the pads. And then if we are way off and we are kind of lost all hope, we're out of time, we're off the tracks, and we just need to go to a pad, then I usually do that one to F, which you can kind of maybe guess why I picked the letter F. But that being said, it's important to pick a key that doesn't have a crucial functionality also assigned to it. So I could do A, but I also know that when I'm not in a key selection, A is going to put me in my automation mode, which I need to change the tempo of my song. So that's a helpful thing. If you're working in MIDI, you don't want to do B because that's going to turn your writing stuff on. You don't want to do S because that's going to solo things. So just things that you know are in your workflows that are assigned already to different keystrokes. Pick a different one. So F works for us. There's nothing attached to F that I need. So that being said, like if say we're off, we're in Bless God, we get off, I can throw it, if we're still on tempo but we're off the track, I throw it to C, and that will solo my click, my pad, and then it will keep us this right here. It'll keep us here so that if it hits this MIDI cue, it'll jump us back to the very beginning of the song and keep us in this time signature, in this tempo, and in this key. And then if I need to go to the next song, I have a button that is patched to the next locator button. I'll take us out of this mode, and then I'll move us to the next part. So that easy as that. And then same thing goes for if we're in the middle of Bless God and we're off the click, we're off the pad, we're off the tracks, and we just want to go to a pad. I'll hit that F button and all that solo is out as a pad. And again, it will loop as long as I need it to. So that's how we set up the loop feature. That's why we set it up as kind of a fail-safe mode. Just with tracks, our philosophy that we've developed is like, we don't want tracks to be the limiting thing, and we don't want it to be a distracting thing, the way that we use them. And it's definitely distracting if you are using them in a way that you're not aligned with the tracks in time, whatever. Like you want to be able to jump to something that's less distracting, or to serve your congregation well in a moment, because we all make mistakes. Things like this are bound to happen, and we just want to be equipped and prepared to deal with them as they come up in a service context. So that's kind of how we do that. Now, the last thing that I'll do before is I'll go through all this, and I won't do this here in this video, but I'll go through all my channels, and I'll deactivate everything that doesn't need to be activated from the tracks. Like we don't need our drums to be active. We have a bass player that is playing on our Sunday mornings. We have an acoustic. We have 2 electrics normally, and in this song specifically, I know that EG1 and EG3 are the electrics parts that our people on stage will be playing. So we'll keep EG2 in there because that just helps to fill some space. We have a pianist on stage, keys player, and we can leave everything else in. And given the key that we're playing Who Else In this week, we can keep the vocal tracks in because they're not too automated sounding. So that's what I'll do. And then last but not least, whenever you're building stuff out, especially from a hard drive, don't rely on your hard drive. Like, use your internal drives to run your set from. So I'll save this, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save it. We call it RTC 10.5.25. That's the date. I'll save this as a new session. And then what you want to do is you want always collect all and save at the end, especially when you're making a service session. Always collect all and save, because if you don't, you have to rely on a hard drive. And I have a Thunderbolt drive here, and that's great. It's supposed to run really fast, but anything external that's not within your device, relying on that is just kind of a gamble. So when you collect all and save, it takes all of the files from your hard drive or wherever you're pulling your song, like WAV files from, as you're pulling them in, and it all brings it to one place. It saves it locally on your computer's drive, so it will run everything locally, and it won't bog down your computer, and it won't have any hitches. It's a lot less likely to have any hitches or problems running audio and stuff like that on a Sunday in a service context. So that's how we build our tracks. We build them in arrangement view. I hope this is helpful. Hopefully this can be even maybe more of like a conversation, a back and forth, where I can answer questions as you guys have them. I can answer questions as I'm building things, show you our sets each week. But if this is a helpful resource, throw a thumbs up on the video. Consider subscribing. Again, I'm going to be creating more content that will build up worship leaders around the Twin Cities and the country, and maybe even the world. I don't know what my reach is. I don't know what God has for me, but I want to be a resource to help people think through worship leading, to help people feel equipped to lead their churches and their ministries on a Sunday morning. So thanks for watching this video. If you got anything from it, leave a like, subscribe. If not, we'll see you later.